Good, almost noonish for me. Almost 11ish. Oh, I totally could have put 11ish on the thing with the stuff, you know, and the pudding pops. But good afternoon, good day, good noonish, good 11sies, happy 11sies, happy midnight, happy evening, happy good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. I hope it's special. Welcome to the Lost Begotten channel, where we're back because, you know, fucking why not? And I am presently watching The View. And I just want to play a little clip of it.
To the bottom of Russia's snuggly involvement in the election.
Oh, yeah.
And Hillary says depending on the outcome, she would not rule out challenging whether the election was legitimate. Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think that means about Hillary?
Ha. So yeah. I consider that a talk show, not a news program, so don't ask for fair use of more than 17 seconds of it. But I'm going to go ahead and finish watching that while I play the intro credits, and I will discuss what I hear. And feel free to go and check out The View's channel. The video is titled exactly the same as this video. And then we're going to be doing some fish tank store design, aquarium store design, and possibly mixing up water for water changes and doing some maintenance and stuff and preparing for hatch night. But I got to take a look at the eggs and see if they're worth harvesting first. But yeah, so stay tuned. I'll be back. That's about on par with the level of cheesiness. Yeah.
In my heart, and baby, down in my soul. You, baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way you treated me too many times before.
But we have to have them now because you don't want to have it at the time you discover you have to have it. You have to have some idea of what's coming, and I don't think anyone knows because we've never seen this before. We may be the first people saying, so how is this going to roll?
Yeah.
You know, who is actually going to be investigated? If they're investigating everyone, who then takes power?
So, that was about as stressful as I thought it would be. They don't seem to understand that the FBI can turn over the results of their investigation to, and I'm not going to say it because the Trump trolls might rearrange their legal defense and try to ruin this too. Just destroy this part of our democracy. That's what they'll try to do. But there's another legal agency that can get involved. Another branch of the government that can essentially say, no, the election actually went this way. No, the Electoral College has to revote. No, Hillary won. Because she won. But anyway. The little cute blonde girl said that now's not the time to be talking about this kind of thing because we need to be moving forward and getting stuff done. Well, you know what? You can't get anything done with a bunch of traitors, you see, because what they're trying to do is dismantle our government. And people who don't understand that need to get it through their thick fucking skulls. They're trying to destroy our country. Okay, so we're not going to move forward. We're not going to, drop the fact that a foreign government installed a fucking task force, and some people want to pretend it's our government. Okay, we need to get down to proving that it's not a government, that it's a foreign task force. And we need to remove that foreign task force and be ruled by our lawfully elected government, by the people and for the people. Okay? It's not that complicated. Joy is still with her. Whoopi, I think, is just... She won't even say dude's name, okay? She won't even say Trump's name, let alone call him president. What's the source? When did she say that? I heard Joey said something about that, but I didn't see anybody else talk about it. Hillary Clinton embarrasses herself on The View. Really? That's how you think that went? By what? Speaking in complete sentences and sounding like an adult? You forget how easy it is to embarrass people who are anti-Hillary, because they're by default fucking embarrassments, aren't they? Oh, but Pizzagate, Benghazi. Yeah, you're a fucking moron. You're a moron person who isn't really there. Okay, so, no, seriously. Somewhere in the suggested videos should be something. Should be something related to the video that's playing. You know, something on the same subject. Should be in the same, you know, in the subject, in the suggested videos. Instead, we have an RT video that says media accused of sensationalizing Russia coverage. You mean Russia accuses media of sensationalizing Russia coverage? RT. How does one, like, I was going to say get out of bed in the morning and go to work for RT. How does one crawl out of their rock, out from under their rock in the morning and report to work at RT every day? Oh, but you can get 1,411 views just for randomly saying Hillary Clinton blames people. 1411. I've never seen that view count before. Seriously, it's one fucking right-wing bullshit thing after another, and then more view videos. Nothing actually on the subject. Yeah, and see that right there, Max, that right there is proof that this election was stolen and that our democracy is still being stolen. And, you know, if America's democracy is being stolen, that means everybody's democracy is being stolen. Because guess what? Once we're fucked, everyone else is fucked. And I don't need to tell you, we're the only thing stopping them fuckers. We're the only thing stopping them fuckers. I don't know if Germany's going to get its shit together in time. Hell, I don't even know if I trust Germany, you know. Merkel. Who do you have if you don't have Merkel? Somebody I trust even less, I'm sure. Go get your food, Tiger Lily. Go on. Tiger Lily's just creeping through here. I can't even say her name. I'm freaking out when I say her name. She just jumped into the kitchen. Uh-huh. $3,171 subscribers. Sweet. Welcome to the channel, new people. I'm sorry it took so long for you to find this channel, but you'll find literally thousands and thousands of channels claiming to have some sort of suppressed truth. And you'll notice that they get much better views than my channel does. But one would think that I had a more widely appealing audience. Hell, Max, you probably know that there's at least 15 intelligence agents listening and watching our broadcasts all the time, right? They're trying to learn stuff from me. At first, the Russians didn't know whether I was one of them or fucking CIA or what. I may have intentionally sent them on a few wild goose chases through subtle hints of clues that weren't really hints or clues of anything. Remember, it takes a really smart person to act like a complete dumbass. Right? What? Ooh, James Clapper, latest on his opinions on the Russia investigation, uploaded by CNN 8 minutes ago, 182 views. 8 minutes ago. Interesting.
Joining me now, CNN.
I bet you this video already has 20,000 views. It now says 260 views, Max.
And national security analyst James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence. So good to have you on, sir. Good evening to you. Director Clapper, there have been so many developments in this Russia investigation, and I want to ask you first about new information that was first reported in the New York Times tonight, that Special Counsel Mueller is asking the White House for documents directly related to the president's actions and behavior while in office. How do you read what Mueller is asking for?
Well, first, Don, I don't have any inside baseball on any of this, so I'm just drawing inferences like everyone else is. And to some extent, this reminds me of the metaphor about lots of blind people touching the elephant and trying to describe the elephant. I would say, though, that it appears to me that the...
That's a good metaphor. I like that.
The scope of the investigation is broadening and deepening as the requests for information, as they have been reflected in the media reporting, seems to be getting more and more pointed and more specific. So I don't know where this is all going to lead. I don't know if this is implicating the president or not. But
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Does this mean the president could be the central focus of Mueller's probe?
Well, it's again the inference you could draw is that he is, but I don't know that. I would say, and I said this some time ago when former Director Mueller was first appointed to the position of special counsel, that in his estimation, there was no there, he'd say so. It appears, at least from what's going on, there is there. And I don't exactly know where this is going to lead. But I'll also repeat something I've said on more than one occasion, is that it is so critical that this whole process, whether in the Congress or certainly the investigation of special counsel, come to a conclusion that is then transparently explained to the American people.
CNN also has some exclusive reporting involving Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign chairman. Specifically, that investigators got a FISA warrant to wiretap Manafort before and after the election. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I can't comment on a specific FISA order. I said some things about this on Meet the Press on the 5th of March, and I stand on that statement. I can't confirm or deny it.
So, sir, let me play it and then get your. So just to remind people of what you said, and this is what you said to Chuck Todd. This was back in March, and as you said, on Meet the Press, and then we'll finish up.
Let me start with the president's tweets yesterday. This idea that maybe President Obama ordered an illegal wiretap of his offices. If something like that happened, would this be something you would be aware of?
I would certainly hope so. I can say, obviously I can't speak officially anymore, but I will say that for the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign. I can't speak for other Title III authorized entities in the government or a state or local entity.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
or something like this.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists.
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order.
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
Okay, so the president's allies say that the fact that Manafort was wiretapped proves that the president was right to accuse the former president of wiretapping him, and you were wrong. What's your response?
Well, I stand on that statement that you just replayed, and I cannot comment on the media reporting, which is all we have, about a FISA warrant allegedly lodged against Mr. Manafort.
Large fries,
I will
pie,
simply
large
reiterate
coffee.
What I said in March, and I stand on that.
This is the kitten.
And that there is, as far as Trump Tower being wiretapped, according to the president, you say what?
I stand on what I said on the 5th of March on Meet the Press, as you just replayed it.
So did you know, and I hate to keep, I just want to, just for clarity, because there's been a lot of reporting on this, right? And people on you know, especially those supporters of the president saying, oh, here's proof, here's proof. So did you know about a FISA warrant against Paul Manafort at the time?
I did not. And again, I have to say that what we have is media reporting only, and actually commenting on, you know, FISAs are classified, and so you know, if I knew something about it, I couldn't, and I don't. And I will just conclude by saying I stand on what I said on the 5th of March.
Is it possible the president was picked up in a conversation with Paul Manafort?
It's certainly conceivable. Yeah,
Is it likely?
I can't say. I wouldn't want to go there, but I will say it's possible.
The Washington Post is also reporting tonight that while Paul Manafort was working for Donald Trump, he offered to privately brief a Russian oligarch, Oleg Deripaska, on the campaign. How would the Russians interpret that, Mr. Biden?
Well, obviously, perhaps they would regard it perhaps as a witting accomplice. Again, as part of their overall campaign to interfere with the election. So if they had a witting and willing participant who would engage with them, talk with them, who in their mind had some inside access or influence in the campaign, which at one point Mr. Manafort certainly did. I think they would view that as a favorable line of exploitation.
I have to ask you about the meeting the president had in the Oval Office with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the former ambassador Sergei Kislyak, where President Trump bragged about firing Comey to the Russians, saying it relieved great pressure on him. People on both sides of the aisle grasp at these pictures, or gasp, I should say, at these pictures. Do you think that moment will come back to haunt President Trump?
Well, it could. It's not to say that such meetings are inappropriate. I personally was somewhat taken aback by that from if no other point of view than just the security standpoint, in light of the fact that only Russian media were permitted in the Oval, and only Russian photographers were allowed to take pictures. So I trust they were closely screened. And just the notion of this solicitousness with the Russians has been, for me at least, bothersome, particularly in light of the demonstrated interference in our election. And it's appearing more and more to me that the Intelligence Committee assessment that we published on the 6th of January may have only been perhaps the tip of the iceberg.
Can I ask you, I just want to go back to and get your response to something, because on September 2nd, this president's own Justice Department said that there was no evidence to support President Clinton that President Barack Obama offered wiretapping of Trump Tower during the 2016 presidential campaign. Again, as the Justice Department said in a new court filing. Wouldn't the Justice Department, his Justice Department, know about if there was a FISA warrant, if there was any sort of wiretapping on Trump Tower?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe Director Comey said much the same thing in his testimony on March 16th before the House Joint Select Committee for Intelligence.
So the President's own Justice Department came to the conclusion after investigating that there was no wiretapping of Trump Tower.
That's what I draw from that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Clapper. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Don.
Trip away, laddie. All right. I'm tired. Like, I'm so tired I'm getting out of breath easily. But, I have to wait till later on today to take a nap or something. Alright. So now that I got my second thing of salt water mixing up, that's really all I need to do this early in the day. Except, nope, I need to mix up some algae. the bottle. And, okay. So I have this little thing. Oh. Correction. I had this little thing. And we were using it to feed the kitten. End of line malfunction does not compute. Abort. Retry. Fail. Abort. Retry. Fail. Abort. Retry. Fail. I can't even find the fucking black coffee cup. Wash these dishes, it's not there. There's the spot where it goes. In the fridge still. Ah, it's in the fridge. Wait. Okay. So I finally have a new one of these guys that I can use to begin measuring out my RG complete consumption. And without this very crucial step, I would not really be able to determine a proper quantitative analysis to extrapolate annual cost from. And now we shall have layers of stuff, of science. Shit. I repeat, layers of stuff of science. I remember where I stopped wearing these pants when I got a new pair of pants. One of the fucking belt loops is broken. That's not annoying at all. Alright, so anyway. Can't light a cigarette with this thing. fuck? So here is my big bottle of RG Complete Concentrate. And I've basically just been eyeballing this shit from here. So what I'm trying to do is measure how much I've been using. So that's 4. That's not enough. That's 5.5. That's 5.5 more. Okay. So approximately 15 milliliters to a 16-ounce bottle. One reason for doing this is dispersion. Okay, so you're able to get it to mix with the water that you're dosing easier. And the other reason is so that the main bottle doesn't have to come out of the fridge very often and stays as cold as possible all the time. This is slightly brackish salt water at 021. And now, I don't know how much each squirt is for each culture. But I guess I should measure that. That's about how much I squirt. $12 milliliters per average squirt. Oh, I wasn't supposed to use that. If I accidentally get tank water in this, I have to rinse it with fresh water. Oh! I just had some weird deja vu. We might either be at war or have an impeachment by the end of the day. Man. Shit. Oh, wow. Yeah. Cookies need love like everything does. So now this guy is going to get stored in the top of my rotomer tank. I suppose I should reinstall my thermometer. So, this is my incubator here. Let me see it on the thing. This is my incubator. This is its usual heat shielding that gets dropped on the ground when I try to decide between two different moves in mid-flight. It goes on there like so. And it's painted black all the way around. Dingo! Dingo! Shake your damn ears right by my coffee, dumbass. Fucking you come all the way out into here just to do that. Alright. So I have this cutaway just for viewing here. So I can see inside. This tank was most recently used as a hospital tank. So I need to find the appropriate containers, which are not where they belong. Oh, big fucking surprise. Seriously, where could they even be? Alright. On the rocking chair. That makes sense. So here is my container for medicated water. The ones that aren't for medicated water are different shades of blue. This is like salmon pink. Air stone and the heater. And a piece of PVC pipe that I put in there. And it's all going to get rinsed out. And grab that. No, I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk dripping any of this shit in my tank. Huh. Alright, so that's going in the sink, and I'm just going to let the water run on that shit for a while. And now this whole incubator has to come out. I'm going to be mixing up a lot of salt water today, because not only am I in need of a water change, so I need to kind of freshen up the mix there, but I'm going to have to fill up that incubator if I want to do a harvest. I got a good system here where the water jug is the perfect height for me to lean on as I get the scoop of salt out the bag. Makes it a whole lot easier to get back up. Especially considering that then I have to lift the jug of water. I'm supposed to be wearing my back brace, but it's way over there. I'm over here. And fuck it, you know. Making progress. Seems like I'm going to be in pain either way, so fuck it. I'll save the back brace for the difficult one. Alright. This is now clean. And I tilt the camera up since my pants are like halfway falling off. Heater's clean. PVC pipe is clean. But it just kind of stays up there anyway. By the hospital tote. Oh. Alright. Store this here ever so briefly on my little knick-knack shelf here. So the back brace makes the pants come down. Try not to get excited, ladies. I'm a married man. Okay. Alright. Pull the belt tight and proceed. Okay. And now the back face feels loose. Oh, shit. Alright. If my wife is watching, see dear, I'm being a good boy. Oh shit. The tank, however, is not being a good boy. There we go. Ha ha. I shall return. Oh shit, I forgot to put a towel down in front of the sink. Oh, damn. I have returned. Okay, come on, stay. Don't fall and break and destroy everything. Okay. Yes. Yeah, another thing to bear in mind when keeping aquariums, don't let stuff fall and break and destroy everything. General good rule of thumb. Drying. Oh, and I just stepped in the kitten's milk. How about that? Ba 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 ba. Now let's try this again, folks. Have to bend over awkwardly because I can't move the blue bucket because I'm a moron. Got a little captain in you? See? I'm not straining my back. It's balanced on my leg. Spoon! Cousin, why a spoon? Because it'll hurt while I get spanked. I'm cleaning up the stand, just cleaning up the stand. So I had little Nemo in there. And he kept wanting to jump because he didn't like the reflection on the bottom of the tank. So I had a bunch of oregonite sand in there. And now I'm taking it out. So just a little bit. Just enough to diffuse the light from reflecting off the bottom of the tank. Right. Incubator is scrubbed, son. And I just stepped in the milk again. Okay. Yes, yes. Point and laugh, kitten. Point and laugh. Well played, kitten. Well played. Okay. So, the incubator is drying on the towel right there. And I'm going to sit down. you need to learn to use the restroom by yourself in there. Okay, starting with covering that up. See? No. You go in here. Fine, you little fucking asshole. Oh, and I'm out of cigarettes. Where's the Uber? Over there, I must. You're right here where I can reach you. Too easy. So my plan is to go in there with a chopstick and stir up the sand behind the rocks that I can't really get to with the vacuum cleaner. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to turn down the flow to the 29 gallon, the bigger tank, and turn up the flow to that 20 gallon. And try to get all that water that gets kicked up and dirty blown the fuck out of it. So I'll basically start doing it, and then before it settles, I will turn up the flow. And then what that'll do is hopefully relocate a lot of that debris into the bottom tank and the tub, and then I will turn down the flow to the top tank and then turn back up the flow to the 29 gallon where the protein skimmer is, and hopefully that will remove some of the waste, except for that settles in the bottom tank that I'm going to be cycling. As much gunk as I can out of the sand and down to the bottom, and then we'll siphon the sand down there. And then suddenly I'm remembering, no, those anemones aren't very happy. Probably try to limit what I do out of that top tank. Fuck. But all that's going to be happening later anyway, just because I got to wait a while for this salt to mix up and cure and stuff. Meantime, the kitten has crawled up on my lap. Hello, kitten. Puerto Rico is without power? Like the whole fucking island? Wow. Russia weaponized Twitter to sway election. Ooh.
Twitter is saying it is not in the business of policing political thought or messaging.
Huh.
That's whether it's coming from Republicans, Democrats, or Vladimir Putin. And while Twitter will not confirm Russian actors were using its platform to meddle in the 2016 U.S. election, the proof it happened is adding up. This Twitter account, @TeaPartyNews, had a following of more than 22,000. It blasted the Twitter world with pro-Trump, conservative, anti-immigrant stories and rhetoric throughout the campaign. And among its followers was the now fired member of the Trump administration, Sebastian Gorka. What Gorka and other followers of Tea Party News may be surprised to learn is the account has been outed by Russian journalists as being a part of Russian propaganda campaigning. The account has been linked to the Internet Research Agency, which a report by U.S. intelligence officials says is a shadowy company tied to the Kremlin, all part of the Russian government's attempts to meddle in the U.S. presidential race. Twitter accounts created as part of the Russian propaganda campaign helped the Russians form an entire army of automated Twitter bots and trolls that overwhelmingly supported one U.S. candidate.
Most of the accounts are made to look like Trump supporters, but actually begin and end in Russia.
Samuel Woolley with Oxford University's Internet Research Group analyzed over 17 million tweets and found networks of automated accounts that retweet each other played a powerful role in determining the flow of information in the 2016 election, some by foreign governments attacking the U.S. through fake news.
This is literally manufacturing interest in a tweet, by rapid fire repeating these retweets. That's right. People like to tell me propaganda's been around forever, but what I say to them is when you computationally enhance propaganda, you have a much more difficult time parsing information and understanding actually what's going on.
Is weaponize a word that you would use?
They are absolutely weaponized.
Tea Party News has been shut down by Twitter. The company won't say why. But according to Russian investigative journalist Andrei Zakharov, the end of Tea Party News came just as the Russian media began exposing it.
They stopped to operate it exactly after our investigation. The last tweet was on the same day or one day before.
Zakharov tells CNN the account was one of 50 such accounts, with more than 600,000 Twitter followers, including at least one member of Donald Trump's administration. Contacted by email, Sebastian Gorka now seems to indicate he knew all along Tea Party News was a Russian propaganda site, telling CNN he followed the site for the same reason I follow CNN, he wrote, to know what the enemies of truth are doing. Samuel Woolley says getting important followers to a Russian propaganda account was an important part of Putin's disinformation campaign.
The hope of the bot, and the hope of the creator of the bot actually more pertinently, is that someone picks it up and tweets it out, and then lots of other people make it viral. All of those sorts of things were started as small trends, pushed out by bots, and then picked up by the mainstream news media and politicians.
Yep. So they're just now figuring out that Russia was weaponizing Twitter to sway the election. So it's Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and what else? WikiLeaks. So how many different ways did they interfere? Oh, but Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes, so it's okay that she's not voting. What? What the fuck kind of crack are these people smoking that they could possibly think that there is any way for people with knowledge, with awareness of reality, to treat this Trump as a legitimate president. It's fucking ridiculous. Hillary Clinton won't rule out questioning the election, which is word for word the same as the title as the new View video. So you would think that maybe just maybe there would be a couple people of the hundreds of thousands of viewers on View videos. Just a couple people here and there might be clicking and viewing the live stream. But, you know.
Reporters, presented by Mark Owen.
The jihadists' attack on the Kabul villages in 2015 left Christians across the region shaken and traumatized. Every day sees jihadist attacks, abductions, or church destruction. Despite hope that the Islamic State organization will be
Why did that sound like People's Court music?
Hello, I'm Monica Guerrero. Coverage in Puerto Rico's capital. CNN's Nick Walsh joining us live from San Juan. Nick, what are you experiencing there right now? Looks like at least it's calmed down.
I mean, the first time, yeah, we've got weather that's not awful, frankly, but it does bring people back out onto the streets. This is the first time the sun rose and they actually got to see in natural light quite how awful Hurricane Maria has been to their daily life. It's here behind me, people just simply pausing to take stock of what's happening. But, you know, probably the thing that we sort of say under
Hey, yo, Adrienne.
is affecting people's lives most extraordinary is the fact they're without electricity. And that's probably going to carry on for 4 to 6 months. So there's obviously a very swift trade in generators around here. You can hear their hum in the background, but also the silence, really, of the normal busyness of daily life brought to a halt because of that. Imagine, you know, without electricity, which jobs would you normally turn up to do? So that's an enormous challenge. And bear in mind, you know, this is a place that was already in huge economic dire straits before Hurricane Irma, of course, $1 billion worth of damage. So here we're seeing debris around the streets, and places like Walgreens with their lights on, but their doors still boarded up. And generally, I think people taking down those shutters, having a look at really how bad it was, but also really lacking in information. Remember,
Oh, man. I don't think most people in America even realize how big Puerto Rico is. I think it's one of the little tiny islands. It's not really tiny. It's bigger than a lot of states. Boy, that storm really strafed the fuck out of it. The headline on this reads, Mueller asks for White House documents.
Reports that rescuers were trying to reach this young girl, but now another 24 hours have gone by. What's the latest?
You know, these rescue workers are still here. I talked to one who worked for 36 hours straight on it, and he says that it's been an emotional roller coaster because as soon as they find signs
now
of
on to
life
the earthquake in Mexico City.
Up, they are joyful, they are re-energized. Then they hear that, like you mentioned, this 58-year-old woman who was recovered from the rubble, and then the mood plummets because they're working so hard and they're working for life. I want you to take a look at what's happening behind me right now, because these rescue workers and these volunteers have been out here for hours. They've been unloading metal beams, which is a new development here because we've seen them use wood to hold up the walls of this school to try to create tunnels through the crevices and the cracks of this building after it collapsed. And now they're also trying to use metal beams. So that's a development that we've seen just in the past 30 minutes. And the other thing that we've also seen multiple times is these rescue workers raising their hands and creating a fist. And that is a good sign, because rescue workers tell us that that means that there is some sign of life. So they're asking for silence. Everybody is quiet. You can hear a pin drop here when that happens. We've seen it multiple times this morning, and that, of course, hope for those parents that have this agonizing wait, who are waiting to hear if their children are safe.
I cannot imagine. Rosa Flores will continue to watch your live shot and keep us posted. Thank you so much. If you would like to help the victims of the earthquake in Mexico or the people in the Caribbean and the U.S. that are affected by these recent hurricanes, so many of us feel helpless, there is a way to make an impact. Go to CNN.com/impact, and that's where you can find out how you can make a difference. Coming up for us any moment now, President Trump will meet with the leader of South Korea after promising new actions against North Korea. We'll bring that to you just as soon as it happens. Stay with us. Breaking news, President Trump is just about to meet with South Korea's president at the Palace Hotel in New York. It's one of the meetings happening on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, and it comes after President Trump turned up the rhetoric full blast in that speech he gave to the UN on Tuesday, threatening to destroy North Korea if the U.S. is forced to defend South Korea and other allies. Now, a short time ago, President Trump said new sanctions are in the works. I want to talk more about this with CNN's global affairs correspondent Elise Labott and senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny. He's at Trump Tower. Jeff, I want to start with you. What is the White House saying about this meeting that should happen at any moment?
Well, Anna, we are going to expect to hear from President Trump some more details about new sanctions that he wants to impose on North Korea. Of course, this is coming just a couple days after that fiery speech where he left, made clear his point to the UN that the U.S. would totally destroy, in his words, North Korea. But still, diplomacy is the preferred route here. So he is going to, in this hour, talk about sanctions. We are told the sanctions are not going to be specifically related to the oil program, but will be business related. So we'll get more details on that. But this is just the latest in the continuation here of the president grappling with how to deal with the rising nuclear threat here. And it's key, of course, he is having a meeting right now with the president of South Korea, then a working lunch with the president of South Korea, as well as the Japanese prime minister. So clearly two partners in this. Important to point out, China not here at the UN, not in New York. China will have to be part of any a successful North Korean sanctions effort on it.
And Elise, we know South Korea and its new president and President Trump haven't always seen eye to eye in how to deal with North Korea. But South Korea is a key ally, and of course North Korea is such a pressing issue right now, not just for the U.S., for the region, but really for the global community. What's at stake in this meeting?
I think it's a very important meeting because the relationship is very strained between these two leaders, and the South Korean president just came in with a much more kind of conciliatory stance towards North Korea. As opposed to President Trump, who wants to take much more of a hard line. The relationship also strained because of issues of trade. And so you...
Hold on just a moment, Elise. Let's listen in.
We've had a few discussions over the last number of months, and I actually think we're making a lot of headway in a lot of different ways. We are on a very friendly basis working on trade and working on trade agreements, and we'll see how that all comes out. But much more importantly, frankly, than trade is the other aspect of our relationship that we're working with, and that has to do with North Korea. So we are meeting on a constant basis. We'll be meeting in a little while also with Prime Minister Abe of Japan, and that will be a tri-meeting. So we will see, but I think we're making a lot of progress in a lot of different ways. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Would you like to say something?
아시다시피 윤 대통령과 나는 지난 몇 달 동안에 여러 번 만나서 토의를 한 바 있습니다. 그리고 여러 가지 문제에 있어서 많은 진전이 있었다고 생각합니다. 우리는 또한 그 무역과 관련해서도 아주 친숙하게 지금 대화를 나누고 있습니다. 솔직히 내 생각에는 무역보다는 우리가 더 다른 부분에 있어서 중요한 부분에 있어서 많은 그 토의를 해야 된다고 생각하고, 물론 그 문제는 북한의 문제이기도 합니다. 오늘 우리가 만나서 많은 대화를 나눌 것이고, 또 아베 수상과도 3자 회의를 곧 가질 예정입니다. 하지만 여러 가지 문제에 있어서 많은 진전이 있었다고 생각합니다.
Like a cross between Mongolian and Japanese, isn't it?
여러 번 이렇게 뵙고 또 통화를 나누어서 갈수록 아주 친근하게 느껴집니다. 이번에 그 북한의 도발이 대단히 개탄스럽고 또 우리를 격분시켰는데 그에 대해서 미국이 아주 단호하게 그렇게 대응을 잘해주셨고, 또 한미 간의 공조도 빈틈없이 이루어지고 있어서 아주 만족스럽게 생각합니다. 이번에 대통령께서 유엔 총회에서도 대단히 강력한 연설을 해주셨는데, 저는 그런 그 강력함이 북한을 반드시 변화시킬 것이라고 그렇게 확신합니다. 감사드립니다.
Mr. President, I've met you several times, and I've also had many telephone conversations with you. And because of this, I'm becoming more and more familiar and with you. Over the years, North Korea has continued to make provocations, and this is extremely deplorable. And this is anger both me and our people. But the United States has responded firmly and in a very good way. And because of this, I also believe that we have very close coordination between Korea and the United States. And because of this, I am very satisfied. Mr. President, in the UN General Assembly, you made a very strong speech. And I believe that the strength of your speech will also help North Korea. Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm very happy that you used the word deplorable. I was very interested in that word. I didn't tell them, I promise I did not tell them to use that word.
대통령께서 그 개탄한다는 그 단어를 사용하신 데 대해서 굉장히 기쁘게 생각합니다. 절대로 내가 문 대통령께 그 단어를 사용해달라고 요청하지 않았습니다.
That's been a very lucky word for me and many millions of people.
You fucking evil piece of shit. I can't fucking... Really, I delight in the word deplorable.
That's right, because as we went into the press conference, we're talking about the fact that this relationship is strained, not just because of their differing approaches on North Korea, but because President Trump came into office. The deal is so...
Why wouldn't Trump suck Satan's dick? Because it's already up his ass.
Bad for America. We're going to make it bad.
And it's so good for South Korea.
Exactly. And,
really,
you know, look, this is a very transactional president. He wants to get something for what he's doing on North Korea. And so I think what he's trying to do is, you know, bring all of these issues together. His relationship on South Korea and North Korea he's saying is going to be much better if South Korea plays ball in the trade deal. And I think that's very interesting. You know, this relationship with this new South Korean leader who is coming in with a much more conciliatory approach towards North Korea is far different than the relationship that President Trump has with President Abe of Japan. Very cozy together. He was one of the first leaders that he met with after his election, and when he came into office, they played golf together.
Well, why do you think they're so cozy and not so much?
I think a lot of it is because President Abe is a very charming man. He knows how to kind of play to what President Trump likes. He's very praising of him. He also plays golf, so they bonded on that. And I think that, you know, Japan also is looking to take a much more hard line on North Korea. So he's been playing to what President Trump is looking for. And I think these two men have formed, you know, Japanese officials have told me that they feel very good about the relationship these two leaders have had. And it also is very much they're very much in line with this more hardline approach towards North Korea.
And Jeff, let me ask you about the other thing that actually drew some laughter in the room when the president thanked South Korea's president for using the word deplorable. I mean, that goes all the way back to the campaign.
It certainly does, and that's
I don't think he understood what it
means as well here. Of course, the word deplorable first came up in a fundraiser that in the campaign last fall that Hillary Clinton had right here in New York City. She talked about the deplorables, talking about Donald Trump's supporters there. So you heard President Trump sort of laughing about that, and he said, look, I did not ask him to say that word, but he said, that word has been a very lucky word for me. Indeed, that became a bit of an anthem for Trump supporters across the country at rallies. They would say, I am deplorable. So that was one of the low moments of the Clinton campaign. It seems like a long time ago, of course, because now we're into the governing phase here, but it was about a year or so ago, right here in New York, where Hillary Clinton said deplorables. President Trump seized on it, and he seemed happy to be hearing about it again this morning on it.
What the fuck? You ought to be fucking pistol whipped, you stupid piece of shit. That was a low moment for the Hillary Clinton campaign to be calling out fucking neo-Nazis and fucking fascists and fucking misogynists and fucking pussy grabber fucking calling that deplorable. That was Hillary Clinton's low moment? No. That was CNN's low moment when your talking points fucking deceived the world and eliminated moral thought and clarity and comprehension from the entire fucking conversation. And for that, there isn't a single fucking CNN employee who doesn't deserve to be fucking slapped.
House for a wide range of documents, including information related to the president's firing of former FBI director.
I'll slap the janitor.
That's next.
I'll backhand it like a little blonde bitch.
Investigation. First, the Washington Post is reporting that former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort offered private briefings on the 2016 election to a Russian billionaire close to the Kremlin. Plus, sources tell CNN Special Counsel Robert Mueller is now requesting White House records on some of President Trump's controversial actions, including the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. Let me bring in CNN's crime and justice reporter, Shimon Prokupets. Shimon, what other records do we know have been requested by Mueller and his team?
Well, Anna, the special counsel who has put in this request has requested documents and information from the White House covering some of the key moments and decisions made by the president, specifically the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. And
have you noticed one thing, Max? Linguistics back up every last bit of my story. It's been very bizarre, especially with the whole Basque thing. I mean, literally, I wouldn't know about Catalana and the Basque thing if it wasn't for me writing down ancient words that I knew. Writing down ancient words that I knew as I said them. Like, wait, that's, you know, something, and I would try to repeat it and write it down, and then we Googled it, and we found out that the language was Basque, and it's connected directly to ancient Gaelic, which is where my whole contention, Jesus was actually John the Baptist, a Nazarene from Galilee, particularly Bethlehem, on the southern view cliff. And it was actually that little part of the neighborhood was called Southern View. If my memories are memories. Isn't that what it all comes down to? If my memories are memories, then this is something. If I'm not, then I'm a crazy person. And I sought out to prove myself as a crazy person so I could, you know, not be responsible for saving the world, because that's kind of a pain in the ass. But every time I try to disprove a memory, including the memory that the Earth was flat, that the Earth is flat, failed miserably. Anyway.
Details surrounding the period Michael Flynn was National Security Advisor. Flynn was dismissed after he had lied to the Vice President about his conversations with the Russian ambassador. We've learned also that Mueller has asked for information about an Oval Office meeting the President had with Russian officials where he bragged about the firing of the former FBI director, saying that it would ease pressure on the White House. We're also told by sources the White House has so far been cooperating with the request and providing the information to Mueller's team on it.
This new report on Paul Manafort. What more are you learning about this offer, apparently, from Manafort to a Russian billionaire?
That's right, and as you said, it was the Washington Post. They are reporting that during the campaign, Manafort, who is now at the center of the special counsel investigation, offered to privately brief a Russian billionaire with ties to Vladimir Putin on kind of the state of the campaign, where things stood. And the offer, interestingly, came at a time in July of 2016 when, as CNN has reported, U.S. intelligence officials became alarmed by some things that intercepted communication show. Like, for instance, Russians talking about targeting campaign officials that could potentially be influenced. And as we reported on Monday, U.S. officials have intelligence indicating Manafort was encouraging Russians to help the campaign. This latest information from the Washington Post comes from emails turned over to congressional investigators and the special counsel's office. A spokesman for Manafort said the emails were, quote, innocuous, and that he was trying to collect the money that was owed to him by previous clients. And we should know that Paul Manafort has previously denied that he ever knowingly communicated with Russian operatives.
And quickly, Shimon, was there a briefing of any sort? There was the offer for the briefing. Do we know what happened?
Yeah, so we don't know if these briefings actually took place. We know that there were some email exchanges between different people, as the Washington Post reported. But did the briefings actually take place, we don't know.
All right, Shimon Prokupets, important to know. Thank you so much for that reporting. Joining us to discuss, Renato Mariotti. He is a former federal prosecutor and partner at Thompson Coburn. Renato, thank you for being with us. Let's start with that latest reporting, specifically about Manafort and this message to a Russian billionaire It was an email, apparently, but could it still be investigated as collusion if he did not actually receive or respond to that message?
Well, it doesn't matter whether or not you received a response. I mean, what it does is it shows his intent, and I certainly think it would cause Mueller to investigate further. I think really the obvious implication that an investigator or a prosecutor would draw from that is that he was offering some sort of special access to this Russian billionaire, and it makes one wonder, you know, what was he expecting to get in return for that? In other words, was he going to try to get aid for the Trump campaign, or is this to get something for himself? It's obviously problematic. I don't think your viewers need me to explain that to them, but it's something that, you know, on its own, no, obviously, I've never prosecuted a case with one exhibit, so you know that email wouldn't be the only piece of evidence, but there's a reason why there have been reports that Robert Mueller is intending to indict Paul Manafort, and I think this is starting to give us some of the reason as to why.
We'll have some of the evidence that they're using to build their case, but again, we don't know exactly all the details. We do have some details, however, about the information and the documents Mueller's team is asking for from the White House, and of what we've learned, what Shimon just shared with us. What stands out most to you?
Well, there's a number of things. I mean, one piece of it is, I heard him discussing that on the air just a minute ago, is the conversation with the Russian ambassador right after that Trump had right after he fired James Comey, talking about
that Oval Office meeting. Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean what that tells me, the fact that Mueller is interested in that tells me that he's certainly investigating obstruction of justice, and he's trying to build a case that the president obstructed justice regarding the firing of Comey. It's unclear whether there'll be enough evidence for him to move forward with that, but he's certainly investigating that. I think another really important document request is the document request regarding the statement that was issued by Donald Trump Jr. right after the discovery of the meeting at Trump Tower. That statement was later determined to be misleading, and there were press reports that the president was involved in dictating that statement, through aides. The question there is, who was responsible for the misleading language in that statement? Was it the president? Was it his son? What did the president know about that meeting? Why was the president so intensely interested in crafting that statement? I think that there'd be a lot of very difficult questions for those gentlemen to answer if they were questioned by prosecutors.
Based on this new reporting, is the president still safe to say he is not under investigation?
If the president was my client, I would tell him he's a subject of the investigation and he should be acting accordingly. So we have seen a lot less Twitter activity regarding the Russia investigation by the president as of late, and I think that is wise, and I suspect that he has been advised by his attorneys to be more careful about what he says as a result.
All right, Renato Mariotti, thank you so much for joining us. And now we have new developments in the health care debate. President Trump is praising the Graham-Cassidy health care bill, tweeting this: Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy is a class act who really cares about people and their health care. He doesn't lie, just wants to help people. Now, this, says Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office, says he plans to bring the bill to the floor next week before the September 30th deadline if they want to pass it just with Republican support. But right now, Republicans have at least one definitive no vote. That's from Senator Rand Paul. And some other Republican senators say they have serious concerns about it. Susan Collins, John McCain, Lisa Murkowski. Joining us now, CNN national politics reporter MJ Lee. So MJ, bring us up to speed on the latest whip count.
Well, the screen that you showed is incredibly important because, as you said, Rand Paul has already come out and said that he is a no. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and John McCain, keep in mind these are the three senators who voted no the last time around. So you can already expect that winning them over is going to be very, very difficult. And what we can say for sure is that we know Mitch McConnell probably knows that he does not have the 50 yes votes right now, because if he did, he would be definitively announcing that there will be a vote next week. He has not done that yet. He has only said that his intention is to bring this up on the floor next week, but he's not going to do that probably unless the votes are there, because he doesn't want another situation where they are actually voting and then the bill fails.
One thing that's made this extra interesting, has created a bit additional drama, is this feud that has sort of opened up between Bill Cassidy, one of the sponsors of the bill, and Jimmy Kimmel. Who would have thought? Let's listen to the latest exchange, because Jimmy Kimmel went after him on his show, of course, a couple nights ago, and Cassidy responded right here on New Day, and then Kimmel went out again responding to him. So this is the latest back and forth.
I'm sorry, he does not understand. Under Graham, Cassidy, Hillary Johnson, more people will have coverage, and we protect those with pre-existing conditions.
I get it. I don't understand because I'm a talk show host, right? Well, and then help me out. Which part don't I understand? Is it the part where you cut $243 billion from federal health care assistance? Am I not understanding the part where states would be allowed to let insurance companies price you out of coverage for having pre-existing conditions?
So, MJ, who are we to believe? Yeah, I think this heated back and forth between Cassidy and Jimmy Kimmel has created more confusion as to who exactly is right, what exactly will happen to people with pre-existing conditions under Graham Cassidy. So this is the deal. Under Graham Cassidy, states, it's true, cannot outright reject someone just for having a pre-existing condition. This is an important protection that is currently in place under Obamacare. But what states can do is ask for more flexibility so that insurance companies could charge people higher premiums based on their medical conditions. Now, what Republicans who defend this bill would say is that, well, these states have to provide basically assurances that everyone will get affordable and adequate coverage. But the problem there is that adequate and affordable coverage, that actually leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And I think Jimmy Kimmel's point here is that his son is basically going to be fine in terms of getting the care that he needs.
Woman, do you ever
he
shut
himself
up?
is very, 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 very fortunate. His family is very fortunate, but that he saw so many people at the hospital, families who really could not pay for these skyrocketing medical bills, and I think that's the point that he has really, drawn attention to. I was doing some reporting with my colleague Tammy Luby yesterday on what would...
Oh my God, that bitch just, that's a forever talker. You will never shut that bitch up. Okay, I can't take it anymore. Somebody doesn't know how to finish a sentence with any finality, and every next sentence is just a continuation of the previous sentence. Oh, anyways, checking PayPal. No contributions. Nobody supports the channel anymore, man. Nobody. That's sad. Living costs money. Aquariums cost money. But I don't expect my saving the world and whatnot to pay. No. That's why I add jokes, okay? I put work into being funny and entertaining while trying to save the world. That's why you should send me money. Because I need to buy shit. I need a new heater for my broodstock tank. I need more baby brine shrimp. And I need more rotifers. And without that, I cannot harvest clownfish. And we've been trying for about a month now to have the extra money to buy that. And just came up short again. If somebody could send $40, $50, I can empty my eBay card. And that's the channel name at, your typical gangsta email service. Gangsta mail. Homie G-Dog. And, it's where pals go to pay people. But anyways, we've literally not had a contribution since, I don't know, a month or so ago when I mentioned that somebody actually contributed. So, other than Max, he contributes videos. Oh, I can't wait till what happened quickly outsells Art of the Deal. Dakhra Valley has been decimated. Again. Educated Republicans are abandoning Trump. Well, I suppose the more educated they are, the more they would be abandoning him. With the whole facts not being in his favor thing. Every time I see Hurricane Maria, I read Mara because of the football team owner's sister, something like that, named Mara. Like Mara is the only word she says. Mara, Mara, Mara. That's fucking too hilarious. North Korea says they consider Trump's threats like a dog barking. Rob Rosenstein interviewed as a witness in the Russia scandal. Trump says he's going to announce new sanctions on North Korea today. Yes, like a dog barking, to which dogs around the world replied, "Hey!" Well, those fuckers eat dogs, so I guess we shouldn't have expected much. Welcome to Schoolyard Bully Reality TV Show, International Politics Edition. Times like these that make me want to go back in time and find everyone who ever told me, you know, I'm just not that interested in politics. And I want to take a shit on their face. Mostly because I kind of have to take a shit right now. But, yes, I want to like do nasty things to them, and not in a good way. Well, unless you're into that kind of thing. That's weird. These are the jokes, folks. These are the jokes. Oh yeah, fascism taking over the world. I'm just not that interested in politics. I wonder how many people said I'm just not that interested in politics before the Nazis took over and committed the Holocaust. Yeah. Cute. Fuck. Fuck. Who's to blame? Where has it gone? Where did it go? Come on. Disappear on me. Shit. Okay. I found the tool I was looking for. It was under my droid, but on bunch. So, right after I reach 100,000 views and get to monetize my channel, YouTube stops requiring views for monetization. And literally, two days. That's easy for me to say. Literally 2 days after I go from abhorring asking for donations on this channel to saying, you know what, I'm tired of being broke, I've done a lot of work, it's proven valuable, I should be getting paid for the fucking 10 hours a day worth of work I do. I got kids, I got fish tanks, dogs, cats, all kinds of fucking stray animals just find me. And got bills to pay, you know? And 2 days after I say, please go ahead and click the donate button if you're able. Not if you're struggling, if you're able. If you have ample funds and you're going to go buy a fucking latte or something, buy me a latte instead. And 2 days later, YouTube disables the donate button. After I finally say I would like people to donate, they disable donations through YouTube. They fucking just killed it. Like, in weird ways, this obscure channel that seems to have nobody watching it, all of YouTube kind of fucking revolves around it. Around little old me. Why would that be if I'm not the baby Jesus? Welcome back, Adrian. Yes, I'm probably going to say that like that every single time, so just get used to it. You want to fight about it, or you want to be around? You want to be? Hey, Adrian! One for you, Adrian! Okay. I'm done. There you go. Any Clee impersonations? Clee. I kind of like that word. Clee. Okay, maybe my wake has overbaked or something. Tink. That was the clang of the trolley. Yeah. Shit. That was me dropping my cigarette. That was me putting down my lighter so I could take a sip of coffee, so I could not drop the cigarette into my nostril while I try to light it. Because, you know, that wouldn't be good. My nose is running. Then I'll get snot all over the filter. Clang, clang, clang with the trolley. Clang, clang, clang with your kneecaps. Ding, ding, ding with my fists. Hey, Adrian, I wrote a song about fighting, Adrian. Okay, I'm done. I can't get anything done. My back hurts too bad. Oh shit, speaking of which, I gotta go get some more water from the back room. Okay, where is some news? News! Here, boy. Here, news. Come on. Come here, news. So tired. That was Newsy reporting, by the way. That Hillary Clinton's book is selling well. Fuck. The Mystery of Stalin's Death by RT 4 years ago. An attempt at blaming the United States government, the CIA, for Stalin's death. Oh yeah. That's fucking hilarious. Alright, let's see here. Let's see what that fucking hammer's doing. It's hammer time. Ladies and gentlemen, Lawrence O'Donnell. Somebody shut that fucking hammer up.
Useful. Just click on the various players in it and the
yes, everyone get more coffee.
All the different investigations, and so there's yet another website along with Bill Moyers where you can.
I'm gonna get more coffee too.
And just stare at things when you're wondering. Especially, I find it especially useful when these new players emerge. Michael Cohen, for example, today we haven't heard from in a while. A normal news consumer could kind of forget who that is.
Yeah, and having those resources online, especially the interactive ones, help you keep track of the interstitial news as it comes out, even if you can't keep the whole plot in your mind all at once. It's pretty dramatic stuff.
And that moment with the Senate committee today saying to Michael Cohen, you have violated our agreement about public comment about this. We agreed to not make public comments. You agreed not to make public comments. For them to kick him out of the meeting, basically, it had to be a bipartisan agreement inside that room to kick him out.
Right. And there's this intriguing other factor there, which it had been reported a couple of weeks ago that Bob Mueller, special counsel, was having trouble getting the transcripts out of the congressional committees after they were interviewing people behind closed doors. It had been reported that once he started having those difficulties, he had sent word to Capitol Hill that he would prefer that they do their witness interviews in the open now, in open hearings. And I don't think the congressional committees would ever cop to being influenced by a request like that, but it did strike me today when Michael Cohen had his closed-door hearing shut down and they invited him back in open session, that's very much more what Robert Mueller would prefer. So, I mean, it's all reported stuff. The Mueller inquiry itself apparently does not leak, but that's what we've been hearing is their preference.
And so we're now on our way to our first televised hearing of an actual Trump associate testifying in one of these investigative hearings. We will be watching.
Yeah, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, the Senate is making one more last-minute attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare. Senator Chris Van Hollen will join us on the latest with that. But first, the most uninformed, inexperienced president in history went to the United Nations today, and just about everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
That was the most atrocious speech I've ever heard an American president give.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
It is in nobody's interest to try to out Kim Jong-un.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
That moment met with gasps inside the room.
You cannot imagine Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Dwight D. Eisenhower or Ronald Reagan making the kind of statement so easily talking about destruction and war.
Major portions of the world are in conflict, and some, in fact, are going to hell.
Several countries are going to hell. How many countries? Which countries? Why?
I think it went very well. I said what I had to say.
Never had a president bluster about the use of nuclear weapons.
Thank you very much.
Anyone who thinks, military or otherwise, that North Korea won't fight to the very death with every citizen's blood is thinking nonsense.
Tonight, the United States is the closest it has been to nuclear war since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. But in 1962, no one was worried about the mental stability of the President of the United States. No one was worried about the President's reckless impulsiveness. No one was worried about the President's childish need to prove himself. No one was worried that the President might not realize the seriousness of the situation. President John F. Kennedy defeated Adlai Stevenson in the run for the Democratic nomination in 1960, and then he appointed Stevenson ambassador to the United Nations. Ambassador Stevenson was every bit as wise and steady as President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when Ambassador Stevenson proved his case in the United Nations that the Soviet Union had placed missiles in Cuba capable of launching a devastating nuclear attack on the United States.
At the end,
Of the new spur road, there are 7 1,000-mile missile trailers. There are 4 launcher-erector mechanisms for placing these trailers in erect firing position. This missile is a mobile weapon, which can be moved rapidly from one place to another. It is identical with the 1,000-mile missiles which have been displayed in Moscow parades.
Then Adlai Stevenson spoke directly to the Soviet ambassador with the whole world watching, knowing that we were on the brink of nuclear war.
As to the authenticity of the photographs, which Mr. Zoran has spoken about with such scorn, I wonder if the Soviet Union would ask its Cuban colleague to permit a United Nations team to go to these sites. If so, I can assure you that we can direct them to the proper places very quickly. And now I hope that we can get down to business, that we can stop this sparring. We know the facts, and so do you, sir. And we are ready to talk about them. Our job here isn't to score debating points. Our job, Mr. Zoran, is to save the peace. And if you are ready to try, we are.
And so they saved the peace. Russia removed those missiles from Cuba. Our job here is not to score debating points, said Adlai Stevenson. Every serious ambassador to the United Nations has always known that. What was Donald Trump trying to do today by calling the leader of North Korea Rocket Man? That is the Trump version of scoring the debating point. You saw it in the Republican presidential debates when he called his opponents names. That's how some children think you win fights. Lying Ted, Little Marco, Crooked Hillary, and now Rocket Man. Who is the North Korean expert in the Trump administration who advised the president to say that? North Korea does not have a nuclear weapon that can reach the United States. When Adlai Stevenson was staring down the Soviet Union in the United Nations, Russian nuclear weapons were 90 miles away in Cuba, enough to destroy the United States. And Adlai Stevenson did not call the Russian ambassador names. He called him Mr. Zoran. Mr. Zoran and Nikita Khrushchev's government posed a much deadlier threat to the United States on that day than North Korea does now. But that did not provoke the President of the United States or the United Nations ambassador to call their adversaries names. President Kennedy did not threaten to totally destroy Russia or Cuba. North Korea is a country of 25 million people. To, as President Trump put it today, totally destroy North Korea is to kill 25 million people, and that is a war crime. The President of the United States went to the United Nations today and threatened to commit a war crime. The objective of war is to defeat enemy forces. There are 1 million people in the North Korean military. Donald Trump did not threaten to defeat the North Korean military today. He did not threaten to kill Kim Jong-un today and the North Korean leadership. He threatened to destroy North Korea. And that is actually what we would have to do to be sure that we killed Kim Jong-un, because we don't know where he is. In the event of a nuclear war, we would not know where to target Kim Jong-un. And so if you really want to get him, if you really want to kill him, you have to be willing to kill everyone, every man, woman, child, baby in North Korea. And in the process, you have to be willing to watch tens of millions of people, at least men, women, children, babies, killed in South Korea as innocent bystanders, as North Korea retaliates against the 50 million people who live in South Korea. And that is why nuclear war with North Korea has been unthinkable, completely, absolutely, forever unthinkable to every president, except the untrained, ignorant, and frighteningly dangerous man who is now the President of the United States. North Korea is now led by its most inexperienced, most untrained, and most reckless leader that it's ever had, and so is the United States. Donald Trump does not have Adlai Stevenson at the United Nations. He does not have a Secretary of State or anyone working near him with enough influence over him to make him understand what a president of the United States is supposed to sound like in a situation like this. Never mind what the president of the United States is actually supposed to think. We don't have the slightest indication that Donald Trump actually thinks about any of this. Except the nicknames. Except the nicknames. That's his specialty. Reports indicate that the Rocket Man bit was a late insertion in Donald Trump's teleprompter this morning, and that means the speechwriters didn't put it there. That means the foreign policy advisors didn't think that was the way for a president of the United States to speak. The president's speech today was the worst ever delivered by the United States at the United Nations. It ranged from the vulgar to a muddy puddle of incoherence.
As President of the United States, I will always put America first. Just like you, as the leaders of your countries, will always and should always put your countries first.
Yes, and just let the record show that all the people who rolled their eyes at me, all the people who didn't support this channel, all the people who unsubscribed because they didn't like something I said, this is what you got. This is what you supported instead. I was Coke. This is Pepsi.
The whole point of the United Nations is there will come moments where we will ask other countries to make accommodations to the world and to other countries, and sometimes their neighbors. In other words, moments where we will ask them not to put their countries first above all else. Donald Trump spent most of the rest of his speech talking about the countries who he firmly believes should never, ever put their countries first. Countries like North Korea and, of course, Iran.
Yeah, the thing is, not only is North Korea defended by Russia, they have Russian anti-aircraft batteries, Russian ballistic missiles there. Okay, straight Russian. Okay, not Russian designs, not, oh, a former Soviet scientist went to North Korea. No. Serialized Russian shit. I can pull up all the images again if you really need me to, you know? But then, here's the deal. We just fired like 4 different key members of the leadership of the Pacific Fleet. And backing them up is the Trump administration. From an organizational standpoint, it's very likely that North Korea could whoop our ass. They have less technology than we do, but technology only goes so far. They would very likely be able to invade that peninsula before we could effectively organize a response. That's just the way it is. All this talk that he's of destroying North Korea, it's ridiculous. Talk about using air fuel bombs or what they call nukes. You're going to wind up setting off a chain of events that very few people will survive. But, you know, that's what people like Trump really want. So just bear in mind, everything that Alex Jones accused the American, quote, elite of, that's their plan. They want to cleanse the world of most people. Well, dear, it's a little different than that, and I understand where you're coming from perfectly. There is truth. There is the way that God wanted humanity to be. And that's not Eden. That's reality. Reality has been corrupted through a concerted effort. Society, belief, truth have been corrupted through intense, persistent efforts. And okay, so you point out that black ops projects and most government agencies can only account of 25% of their spending. First of all, that's nonsense. It's not 25%. That was back during the so-called end of the Cold War. Basically, one of the scandals that led to our destruction as a nation by acting as if the CIA doesn't have any reason to have a secret budget. Think about that. Think about the preposterousness of that concept, that the CIA doesn't have any need for a secret budget. Think of what we learned now. Think of how many infiltrators from the KGB made it into this country and influenced us undetected. Think of how many infiltrators from the KGB were producers of bands that made videos on MTV, okay? Like documentaries on the Discovery Channel and the Learning Channel. All these different fucking people, just all this money, and they all happen to be from Poland and shit, you know? And they say they're Jews while funding this concerted effort of ungodliness. Okay, that's not something that started here. That's something that came here, starting in the mid-1800s, and deliberately targeted the churches that were here. Okay, and again, the Rothschilds. You're programmed, dear. Yeah, I came from Germany too. You know, that's most of my blood is German. You know who didn't come from Germany? Adolf Hitler. All right. No. See, what you think you know is the Shilliverse's concerted effort at destroying Western civilization. Okay, and I call it the Shilliverse because that's all these fucking liars who keep repeating the same thing about American banks and the Rothschilds and NASA and the fucking Germans from World War II and all this bullshit back to the UFO conspiracies and Blue Book and fucking HARP and NAMBLA. No. It's all bullshit. Okay? It's all bullshit. It's designed for one purpose and one purpose alone. To make the people in the West turn against their very institutions that keep them free. Okay, and what I was about to say is that our whole stance of keeping the people in the dark from the threat that they face, it's about economics, okay? It's about our fragile economic system. That fragile economic system, and this used to be understood back in Cold War times, that fragile economic system is the only thing keeping everyone on this planet from being enslaved by the land of Nod. You don't even have the first clue what a HARP array is, okay? And as someone who knows how to structure metallurgy in order to achieve certain radio waves, I can tell just by looking at HARP antennas what they actually are. And when it all comes down to it, decoding the acronym isn't that difficult. They tell you something that it isn't. And just like all the secret programs, that you are being led by liars into hating your own governments, okay? You're basically listening and repeating Russian fucking propaganda, okay? And if you don't take a fucking break, I can do without answering the fucking comments, okay? Understand? You want to learn, you go and learn. I've already provided all the information. I've already debunked everything you've said. I've already debunked everything you've said. And it's really fucking annoying that you keep on throwing more and more shit at me, and you're not listening to anything I'm saying. Frankly, earthquakes get caused like this. So basically what you're repeating is Russian propaganda. Things that I have proven to be Russian propaganda. They don't transmit microwave. It's called high altitude aircraft radar penetration or passivity. But it has nothing to do with weather manipulation or earthquakes or any of this stupid shit. Okay? You know how you make an earthquake? You launch a fucking nuke from a submarine underneath a continent. Okay? Into the brine. That's what's below the continents. It's called brine. It's super dense salt water. That super dense salt water occasionally comes spewing through the earth, creating volcanoes. That's kind of a side point. But what you're looking at is passive radar. Okay? And the Russians have had that shit since the 40s. They've had big-ass radar arrays that look just like our HARP arrays since the fucking 40s. In fact, the Germans had them too. What they used to be publicly disclosed as being for is for ballistic missile launch detection. Okay, so it's a passive radar antenna. That's it. That's all it is. It's just a passive fucking radar antenna. To think that it's anything like you're talking about represents a complete misunderstanding of technology in general. And basically, by believing it, you're acknowledging your lack of understanding and saying, heard me, I'm an idiot. Okay? So, stop believing what you're fucking told. The people who, many Americans are related to, that's our government. The people who are resisting this fucking Trump takeover, that's our government. Not the fucking imaginary, fictional fucking X-Files bullshit, paranoid crap that Russia has been funding since the 70s. Don't even get me started on the fucking early 90s with Fox Mulder. Okay, you didn't know Fox Mulder was from St. Petersburg, Russia, did you? You didn't know David Duchovny was a fucking Russian agent, did you? That whole fucking production of X-Files, that mentality, that paranoia that it established, it was a concerted effort by the Russian government to cause rebellion in the United States. And it was fucking brilliant. I was a big X-Files fan. Still am a big X-Files fan. I can't even hold that against them. That show's that fucking good. Why are you telling me shit that I can fucking Google? No, what I'm telling you is what it really stands for, okay? No. Just no. Auroral Research Program, High Frequency Active. Okay, just no, okay? There is your keyword right there. You can tell just by looking at that array if you know anything about magnetism or radio waves that this is a lie. Okay? I don't care. I don't care. Just no, nothing gets past the fact that it's physically impossible for that thing to function in that manner. Okay? Nothing gets past the fact that those things have been used a certain way for years. Okay? Oh yes, Tesla's your dude. You and every other fucking person who just blindly repeats Russian propaganda. I'm telling you, you've been brainwashed, and it's really getting annoying. Like, seriously, you sound like a fucking bot. Do you understand that? Do you understand that you are sounding like a bot right now? I know you're a real person. But you're literally programmed. You're repeating nonsense. And it all makes sense, because there's 1,000 fucking different people on here paid very well to make very well-produced programs to make it kind of make sense to people who don't really understand any of the underlying subject matter. Like the fact that the whole fucking Tesla conspiracy has been used for years by Russian propagandists. Like, ever since, basically. And, I used to be roommates with a founding member of the Ultra Testing Corporation, so, you know, don't give me that bullshit. I know more about it than you do. I know more about your conspiracies than you do. I know more about everything you're talking about than you do. I just don't care, because it's all lies. Okay? Okay. First of all, high frequency. Okay? That right there, it's not HFARP. Okay? It's not HFARP. There. An active. Anybody who knows anything about antennas can take one look at that and learn that that's a passive radar antenna. Okay? That's what it is. It's a fucking passive antenna. You can't get around the physics of that. That does not transmit shit. It cannot transmit shit. I know exactly what the fucking waveforms that you can translate from something like that would look like. Okay? You're talking to someone with an IQ that broke records. If I say it don't fucking work, it don't fucking work. Active. Okay, not only do you have two words where it's one word, okay, you have active on something that clearly looks passive. Auroral research. Auroral research. It just sounds like something on Star Trek. Okay? And, okay, auroral refers to aurora borealis, which is not something that you pick up with fucking antennas. It's something you pick up with radio telescopes. Okay, it's like nothing about that whole explanation makes sense. And they can repeat it for you in fancy documentary after fancy documentary, but the fact of the matter is, I know exactly what it's for, and why the Russians don't like it, and why they want you to protest it and not like it. Okay? It's because it's how we aim our Patriot missile batteries and THAAD systems. Are you familiar with the THAAD system? Well, this is what aims the THAAD missiles, and Russia knows it. It also detects ballistic missiles, and Russia knows it. It also detects nuclear tests, and Russia knows it. And that is why you have just become part of their slave army, sitting here making me argue about some nonsense you saw on the internet. You are sitting there acting as a part of Russian intelligence. You are sitting there behaving like a bot. Just imagine that. Take a step back and realize what has become to so many people. What has become of so many people. They sit there and repeat Russian propaganda and argue with other human beings and sound like bots and drive people crazy with this anti-American bullshit. Aurora is caused by the charging of gas particles by microwaves. Very well repeated. Actually, it's caused, well, the actual effect is caused by the cooling of gas particles in the path of microwaves, but that's it. It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. It cannot interact with that. You understand? You see, it's reacting from microwaves that come from stars and shit. Okay? From the sun. Okay? Oh, God. First of all, the Earth is flat. So, no. That's just right out the window. Okay, so why are flat Earth channels repeating the heart bullshit? But it's got nothing to do with that. It's high altitude arrayed radar penetration. Okay? High altitude arrayed radar penetration. And it's how we aim THAAD missiles. That's it. You've been told all that shit, and you're repeating it because Russia doesn't like us having THAAD missiles. You understand? And you're not going to sit there and say, yes, so that's what I was talking about, because I will fucking ban you, okay? And then you will be without the truth that will save you. That's your loss. I don't care. I can't deal with somebody who sits there and says one thing after another without listening to anything that I'm saying. You can't just ignore physics, okay? And sit there and say, oh, but there's some people who theorize that they know what these gas particles are. We assume that this is about that because this one fucking propaganda piece said it, and the United States government went with it because it was a good cover story. Because that's how simple this played out. It started as propaganda, and the United States government literally said, okay, we'll go with that. It sounds harmless enough. Yes, well, when I judge every soul that I ever created, which is all of them, I intend to keep the good and leave the rest as well. The truth is not for you to pick and choose from. It is for you to use to save your brethren from the horde. And what you just did, and the sooner you realize that you did it, the sooner the better, was repeat horde propaganda. Yes, and who am I, child? Or are you telling me I'm not allowed to use the internet? I don't know physics because I took a class. I know physics because I wrote the laws. Care to chime into the incoherence, Max? I'm getting bored. Good things don't happen when I get bored. Yep. Lit me up a tasty one, too. Oh, yes, and more coffee. But yes, just like if you had watched previous videos and gone and done the research like you're supposed to do when you find me, not only would you have confirmed my identity for yourself, but you would not waste my time debunking things that I have already thoroughly debunked. Okay? And generally speaking, anything that Alex Jones agrees with is a lie. It's called the voice of the accuser. And the only people who are guilty of the shit that Alex Jones accuses the West of is the land of Nod. Oh, don't go fucking to that childish, infantile chicken shit. Max, don't block it. Deconfuse it. Ego is not coming into play here, dearie. Though once people called Pharisees said the same thing to me. Careful of who you serve. Ego is for those who are unsatisfied and insecure, not for those who can change reality with a snap of their fingers. Do I appear as though I am insecure or unsatisfied? No, I'm impatient. Okay? Let me correct your thought before you even say it. I'm impatient with people like you assisting in the destruction of that which I created. Can you understand that at least? There's a prophecy in bold capital letters in a book you call the Revelation. It warns of the whore of Babylon. There she be, after I exorcised her from the fake son she possessed. Ego? I wish it could be passed off as something so simple as ego. You fucking fool. Probably just another goddamn fake screen name. You know? Probably just another goddamn fake screen name, wasn't it? Similar pattern. I can't waste my time with fucking stupid people. Yeah, Max. I do all this shit because, you know, ego. I sit here and don't get any fucking sleep and drive myself fucking crazy, worrying about everyone. Because I'm just so arrogant. I think one of my greatest skills is my ability to make fun of myself and call myself a dumbass. How's that for ego? Jeez. While we're talking about my ego, why don't we list my greatest talents? Let's see. Tripping over stuff because my feet are too big. Forgetting what I was just talking about. Oh, look, clownfish. Oh, I wonder if it'll show up. I have sensed a disturbance in the force, Max. Can you sense it too? Someone's back. Someone's watching now. Someone's come to see how arrogant I am. Murr. It's funny how when you can't actually debate facts, it always comes down to name calling, doesn't it? I've essentially proven that I was here 2,000 years ago. Wouldn't you say that's fair, Max? I've proven that I know more about those times than modern perspective has even allowed. And I've done so without much thought. I've done so in, like, the spur of the moment, just remembered something and the shit winds up making sense and panning out and being verified by researchable facts. And if it were not for these things, I wouldn't believe in myself, because I don't have any ego about this shit. I am who I am, and that's that. And for those who haven't actually read the Bible and fucking noticed, I was A bit of a smartass, B, known for hanging out with the wrong crowd, and B, had a bit of a foul tongue, and C, yeah, see that. In fact, it was, in the words of Christ in the book of Matthew, in which the baby Jesus said, "You guys are full of shit." What enters through a man's mouth may pass through his body and is discarded. But what leaves from a man's mouth is what defiles him. Full of shit. And I also thought people should have noticed by now that I proved it with my usual flawless logic in true George Carlin style. And it also gives credence to my demeanor that Christ, I was a mercenary. You see, a mercenary, when they are being taken away for execution, tells their friend, "Those who live by the sword die by the sword. Don't rescue me." Okay? That's saying, I live by the sword, I'm going to die by the sword. This is fair. This is just. It's basically, actually, if you want to know the truth of it, if you want to know what was inside my head when I said that, it's basically, I've gotten away with a lot of shit, so it's kind of about time that it caught up with me. Anyways. Right, Max, okay, for those of you who might think Maximo was some sort of paid person, he's just a random person that I couldn't even comment, I couldn't even reply to his comments or even like his comments at first. Couldn't follow him on Google+. He's just a random person who seeks the truth, and he's found it, and he's tried to debunk and poke holes in my stories, and been doing it for years, and just hasn't found any cause. Right, Max? Does that about sum it up? And I mean, look, I started out with this massive revelation, you know, temple of God coming down from the sky telling me I'm fucking baby Jesus and whatnot. And I got depressed. And to get myself out of depression, I thought I could debunk myself. And I started to research all of these things I thought were memories that had come back, hoping that I could debunk them. But they all proved true. Every single last one of them. And then, since then, I've, you know, I mean, I snap my fucking fingers and make movies for, it's, I don't have a way out. If somebody would like to tell me how I can stop being Jesus, I'm all ears. I'm like a fucking Ferengi with that shit, okay? Would you like to buy a tapestry? Okay, fuck. Just 3 bars of pressed latinum. All ears. Tell me how I can just stop being me. I'm not Jesus. Jesus is not my name. I'm not the Christ. Christ is not my title. The Christ is not the prophecy for this time. Anyone who says they are Jesus, anyone who says they are the Christ, is a liar and a false prophet. I don't come to be the Messiah king who frees the Jews from Rome. That happened. And like I said, Princess Stephanie has only learned about just even the basics of what Christ even is from watching this channel. And there's a reason why I'm the one who's teaching it. I do enjoy these tirades. I find it rather entertaining. Kind of reinvigorating. Oh yeah, I forgot how fucking dumb the enemy was making people in order to control them. I forgot how dumb Putin has to make his own subordinates in order for them to continue to do his dirty work for him. I got no patience because I'm so sick of completions. Like, okay, if I sat here and made the choice right now to delete this channel and stop being the BB Jesus. You see, I raise quotes because I was John the Baptist. If you want to actually know the name that I went by at the time, the English pronunciation of it is John. It was Jonas, okay? And sort of a Proto-Gaelic Greek European language that existed. I think a better proper pronunciation of that lifetime would be Jonas. I had lived a previous lifetime, I believe, as a man named Johannes. And I think I lived a subsequent lifetime as a warrior king named Johannes. But I really can't be sure, because it was a long time ago, and I've lived a lot of fucking lifetimes, haven't I? But there's individual things that I've been picking up over the years that give me clues and help me piece stuff together. A lot of what I remember completely contradicts what historians have written down. And that makes it really confusing, because I made good grades in school, and I know what historians teach is history. And that conflicting with memories is a nearly impossible task. But if I made the choice to not be me, first of all, my wife, who has seen this body turn into energy, would think I've gone crazy and would tell me no. She would just tell me no. No. No laughter. No. But even if I could just beg her for her permission, and like, I couldn't convince her that I wasn't me. I couldn't. Nothing I could say could convince her that I was not. Just like where I would be left if it, just subtract that from the equation, okay? I couldn't even logically bring that to a point where she would be removed from it. So just subtract that from the equation. Me just deciding. What do I tell myself? Do I put on some Biggie and just pretend it was all a dream? How do I pretend that I didn't call forth Russia thinking we'd be ready for them? How do I pretend that what I saw preceding the suppression of this channel, the lack of adherence, and the complete dismissal of me, the complete refusal to recognize me, and how it resulted in the continuing blindness of this country? I can't forget that. I can't forget how everything played out, detail by detail, proving who I was, that my truth was necessary for the survival of humanity. What do I do with that? How do I unlive that? I mean, I delete the channel. I mean, that's fine. You know, that's easy. But how do I forget? How do I just stop? I mean, I wouldn't be able to go outside because the sun is, the clouds, the stars, they kind of give reverence to me. It's awkward. It's weird. But it leaves little room for doubt, you know? And I really wish what people fantasize about would come true. For me and for you. But that's just not what's written in the Bible. That's just not what's going to happen. That's just not what has happened. How should I presume? And where do I begin? I think about it a lot. More than those who depend on me might feel comfortable. But I really wish, quite often, that I did not have this burden. That somebody else did, see. Now the sunlight's acting like a fucking mood ring. Man. But yeah. Somebody motivated to a task by ego doesn't sit around wishing they could be excused from that task. And it is my ego that makes me want to quit and just say, you know, it was all acting. I was just pretending to think I was me. Ego makes me think of how impressive would that be? Think about this for a second, Max. If this was a hoax, if my channel was a George Soros funded thing, how talented would that make me? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, I'd have to be like the most talented actor, producer ever, right? What the fuck do people think when they turn their nose up at me? I don't even like know how to like make that up, that like to play that off. How would I even? Right, there you go. The greatest con artist that ever fucking lived, man. I apparently did a deal with several thunderstorms and got them to strike lightning right when I wanted, and I didn't even have to pay them. I just grabbed them by the pussy, do whatever I want. Yeah. Like, just that perspective. Just like the very idea that someone could think that I was either mistaken or a con artist. Like, if I was mistaken, this would be just the greatest freak show on earth, right? But you can't, like, mistake your way into, oh, I'm going to snap my fingers, and then a few months later a movie comes out. Oh, I'm going to snap my fingers again, oh, and a few months later another movie comes out that's, like, a completely different type of movie. We go from, like, what, the Great Wall movie to Pete's Dragon to, you know, Moana. So if that's a hoax, why is my wall taped? You know, why do I live in a trailer? Why do I drive a 93 Accord? If this is all a hoax, shouldn't I have, like, at least a new Kia, you know? A refrigerator, or perhaps air conditioning that is effective. Right, okay, like, okay, I've got it down, I've got the perfect statement, Max. If I am not the reincarnation of the man who was known as Jesus Christ, then the universe, or whatever controls the matrix, wants me to think so. That is a flawless logical statement, okay? Because the idea of me being an actor, of this being, you know, like, I mean, I'm an actor, I can act. This is not, I can, like, do, like, Shakespeare, and I was Dracula once, and, like, I was in, like, in theater arts in high school, and, like, did plays, and, I could be on TV, like, I could do acting, like the way actors do it, but there is no actor who could go on a live stream for 5 hours at a time. There is no actor willing to put as much time into a channel as I have, and just etc., etc., etc. How many fucking reasons, how many ways can you just realize that it doesn't make any fucking sense? Like, once I had developed my complete aversion to lying, I thought of acting as the way to practice lying in case I was ever in a situation where I actually needed to lie. Like in wartime type stuff, like, you know, in the book of Genesis. When Abraham tells the people that Rebecca's his sister, right? That's supposed to be the lie that was excused by God. I used to think about that a lot. I used to think about what defined a lie as excusable. And I really, like, I would sit there and try to debunk those passages as being a lie, thinking that, no, there's no lying. There's no lying in baseball. But then, acting in high school became as much as as a way for me to practice what I didn't believe in doing, you know, just so that I could still have a skill that I didn't, you know, like, I couldn't steal anymore, but I could still lie. It's called acting. It's, you know, practice how good you can just pretend to believe something, right? But, you know, that requires practice and rehearsal and lines, you know, like, and what, to me at least, precludes this from being confused with any acting type stuff I've experienced is the fact that I go on here, I don't plan videos, I tell you what I think, what I believe, what I've felt my entire life. And if I've managed to single-handedly come up with such a coherent bullshit story that makes more sense than everybody else's bullshit story on the planet, where the fuck is my trophy, okay? Like, you want to see me act? You stole my cookies, you bastard! Okay, that's me acting. Alright, I have act. Top of the morning, governor. You know, I do acting for fun. You can't sit on a 5-hour broadcast and argue with people and you know, everything else. It's like, I grind my brain trying to agree with other people, trying to see from other people's perspectives. And I just can't see this. I can't, even with the limitations of most morons and the pathetic mushballs they call brains, I can't see how they would observe what happens on this channel or any length of anything on this channel and think, there's a George Soros shill. Anyway. Oh look, we weren't done with Lawrence.
The Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy. The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States.
Max, I agree with you 100%. But I don't think that person we were just dealing with was a new person. Do you? I think that was that same last person that came in here pretending to be cool and then did the same shit. Did you notice early on that they had some of the same typos? I wonder about some of the other recent, quote, new people. I can't remember what they were, though, but I definitely saw some typographical and grammatical similarities. Well, it is consolation that I'm sure the FBI has tracked them down by now, especially considering that I have been interacting with that same person for a very long time, long before I did live streams. And, yeah. They at one point claimed to be a psychiatrist and threatened to try to have my kids taken from me. Yeah. I immediately notified the authorities. And, you know, there's been a few times, Max, where... Well, that's staying up for a really long time, isn't it? There's been a few times where it has seemed like the leaks to the media, or the concessions to what I've demanded, have come after I was making it clear that I was losing my fucking patience and, you know, my sanity. Feeling like no one even knew what the hell was happening. And remember, it would come at those points when I was feeling that way that these major events or major breaking developments would happen, including natural disasters. Hey, Tiger Lily. She's up here. Right up here. Go on, get your food. What you doing? She's a good kid. She's a good kid. Tiger Lily. Yeah, I wish Emily, or somebody, I mean, frankly, it's pathetic that there hasn't been a government log of this. There should be an FBI file keeping track of me as a prospective non-cult leader. Okay? Remember how I used to talk about the definition of a cult and how it exists to serve me? That's because every single cult that has ever been has been obvious. And they have all, every single one of them, been provoked and or promoted by the Horde, by the KGB, by the fucking Russian government. And every single one of these false prophets says things that preclude the possibility of them being the person, the artist formerly known as Jesus. I'm going to start saying that. The artist formerly known as Jesus. That's going to be my new way. Because I come to a silent point every time I try to translate common knowledge into actual knowledge and say that I am me. You know, I want to say the word Jesus so you understand who I am, but I'm not Jesus. My name is Sean. My name was never Jesus. Jesus is Gaelic for I am. Jesus is what happened when you killed my wife and I, and we came back together as one giant apparative anomaly. And that's when we raised our brother, who was not John the brother of Jesus. His name was Izaru, now known as Lazarus. And, well, I'm not saying I remember this, but I wouldn't be surprised if I said, "Lazy ass, come forth," and that's where the name Lazarus came from. Merface. Hello, Kira. I didn't think I had any text messages. If you sent any, my phone has not gotten them. Oh, yes. Enjoy your cigarettes. If you are running low on cigarettes, I can roll you one big one, or maybe just take a pack. But I got cigarettes and milk from the store, so we have more of those here. Max, what time is it for you? $8:30. Yes. Campfire. I wonder if we can try getting that Google Hangouts shit working again. Oh, poor baby. Dressed in all black, no shade. Oh, that sucks. Indeed. Right? It's hard not to smoke on camera. It's like you need something to fucking do. Okay, well, in the meantime, I'm going to try to send out friend requests from the proper channel name and see if I can't actually get people added to the list on there and stuff so we can do actual hangouts. But yeah, I think one of the things that really pisses me off about the suppression of this channel is that I've been completely denied the opportunity to debate with anyone. I've been completely denied the opportunity to just talk with people. You know? Face to face. All these people do all these Google Hangout debates, and none of them have ever had the balls to even allow me on their shows. To even allow my opinions, my truth to be revealed. Chaps my ass. Yeah, baby, you can't be sitting there on a sunny day with that AC running. You really shouldn't be sitting there at all with that AC running. You need to have that shit blown out and recharged. Alright, Max, I'm going to call it a broadcast, and I will try to get Google Hangouts running, and chat with me on there if you see me. I'm gonna leave it up and for at least the next 20-30 minutes. So maybe we can try to get the actual friends or contacts list together. Oh shit. And I can knock over my camera. But yeah, okay. So, I'm gonna go ahead and end the show for now. And maybe we'll do a Hangouts thing after a while. Right now we're just going to do some testing, and then we'll be on later this evening, probably around 11ish. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for hanging out and commenting, Maximo and my lovely wife Kira. And I'll see y'all some more. Please click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure your subscription is still valid. You know, check it, make sure it's still highlighted, because your subscription might just disappear for no reason. And click the little dingy notification bell so you can get notified of future broadcasts and uploads and stuff like that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day.
I know I gotta keep you by my side.